Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zang here, and today I have another really good battle from the June International Challenge. As you know, I have been uploading my battles from that tournament recently. I did pretty well in that, 3rd in the US, 4th in North America, and 18th overall in the world out of about 10,000 people. And I'm glad to finally be uploading my games from that tournament since they were really good, especially this one. Now the team you see are the 4 I have on the screen up there, along with Gengar and Mega Lucario. Mega Lucario was my Mega Evolution of choice. My opponent has Edgerslash, Tyranitar, Amoonguss, and Salamence. So looking at my opponent's team, I know that Pyro is definitely the Pokemon I want to lead with, just because it can knock out the Amoonguss right away. It can survive a Draco Meteor from that Salamence if it is Choice Scarfed, and it can knock out the Edgerslash. And I decided Rotom Wash would be good to, partner along with it. I did not want to bring Mega Lucario because, as you see on the screen, he's got Edgerslash, Amoonguss, and Salamence, and Mega Lucario doesn't like facing any of those. Mega Lucario is one of those Pokemon that does really well against half the format, but just totally sucks against the other half. And you'd imagine if I brought it here, it would have been really bad, as you see the Salamence and the Amoonguss lead against my Pyro and Rotom Wash. So this isn't a bad matchup for me, but it's also not the best. Of course, Pyro definitely enjoys this one because it can knock out either Pokemon in one hit with either an HP Ice onto that Salamence or an Overheat. And with just slight investment, Pyro can survive a Draco Meteor from Scarf Salamence, so I'm not too worried about that, but he makes an excellent switch into that Tyranitar. I actually predict this. I say to myself, he's probably going to switch out, and I go into my Gardevoir because I want Gardevoir to knock out the Amoonguss, and Gardevoir has a slightly better matchup against Tyranitar than, of course, Pyro, and he does go for the Protect here, so the first turn ends up playing out pretty well. I did just go for a T-Ball onto the Salamence slot in case he decided to stay in, but that is not the case. So the first turn ends up going pretty well for me. Of course, Amoonguss deciding to Protect. If he did not Protect there, I definitely would have been in a lot of trouble, but I assessed my odds and I said to myself he probably would not let that Amoonguss faint to an Overheat, so I'll take my chances. Now here he's going to Mega Evolve into Tyranitar, and that's always a scary Mega Evolution to deal with, but I do have the ability to burn it with Will-O-Wisp. His Amoonguss goes for a Rage Powder, but I know I'm actually in a decent position because I am running Specs Gardevoir, and Specs Gardevoir, of course, will actually allow me to get the one-hit KO on Amoonguss with a Psychic. However, his Tyranitar does get a Dragon Dance before, which is scary, and I know if I miss a Will-O-Wisp here, I'm actually basically done for, so I'm really crossing my fingers. The Psychic does knock out Amoonguss though, and I'm sure he was not expecting that knockout, so this is really good if I can hit the Will-O-Wisp, and it hits! So that was really good, definitely what I needed there, and I take a 4-3 lead as well as burning his Mega Evolution. Tyranitar, really often you see the Dragon Dance set, especially Mega Tyranitars, of course. I think that's by far the best set, but burning it definitely neuters it. However, it's still really powerful, so I know I'm not exactly in the best of positions. He brings in Edgerslash here, and I think I make a really poor switch. I bring in the Pyro instead of the Garchomp. I think I was definitely anticipating a Protect from the Tyranitar, and this was just not a good move. I definitely had Garchomp in the back, and I definitely should have brought Garchomp out, because Garchomp does pretty darn well against both Tyranitar and Edgerslash, as you'd imagine. But I think I was just trying to, get the Hydro Pump off there, but because of the flinch, that set me back, and now this puts me in a really bad position, surprisingly. If I just brought Garchomp out, I would have been in a perfectly fine position. I think I was kind of scared of the Shadow Ball coming out, but that was kind of a silly fear, and I'm really annoyed at myself. Right after I selected Pyro, I realized the Rock Slide was coming, and I said to myself, I just screwed things up majorly for me. Edgerslash hiding behind a Substitute is also really scary because Pyro, of course, has Overheat, but can't knock it out because it's hiding behind a Substitute. He does go for a Rock Slide here. I'm going to Protect with the Pyro. Rotom is going to get the Hydro Pump off this time, not going to flinch, and is able to connect with that. And it actually brings it down to Burn Ring, so I'm really happy with that. His Edgerslash is going to Stance Change, as you'd imagine, trying to pick off the Rotom Wash. So it goes into Blade Form, gets the Shadow Ball off. Really just obvious moves from my opponent there, but the right moves, obviously. And Shadow Ball is going to barely miss the knockout and bring me down to 13 HP. Pyro, of course, is going to take some Sandstorm damage, as well as Rotom, but both are going to be able to hang on as Tyranitar faints from the burn. So I'm up 4-2 now, and I feel pretty comfortable about my position. I know he's probably got a Scarf Salamence in the back, and with Gardevoir and Garchomp in the back, I figure I've got this basically sealed up. There's not really much Scarf Salamence can do, right, to beat all 4 of my Pokemon, and all 4 of my Gardevoir, of course, has Shadow Ball to hit the Edgerslash for super effective, as well as Earthquake, so I'm feeling good about my position. He does go for the King Shield here, and obviously changes forms just so the damage I potentially do is reduced, and I can't even burn him with Will-O-Wisp, so good move by his end there. And he goes for the Rock Slide, and once I see that Rock Slide come out, I say to myself, wow, I should have considered that possibility. totally was not expecting that, honestly. I was just expecting Dragon Pulse or Fire Blast or anything, but Rock Slide was definitely the clutch move here. You know, you often see Rock Slide or Stone Edge on Salamence, one of the two, to get the knockout on Talonflames and, more importantly, Charizard Wise. And not a surprise to see that on my opponent's end at all. Definitely a good move by his end. So now we've got quite the battle. Of course, Salamence is basically useless at this point, and I even traced the Intimidate with Gardevoir, which is even better, reducing the attack from Salamence. But he's still got an Aegislash behind a Substitute. And Rock Slide, of course, is a godly move because it can flinch. He goes for the Rock Slide here, and I'm going to flinch with that Garchomp, which is bad because I did go for the Dragon Claw onto the Salamence. Reason being because I just wanted to knock it out, and I knew if I got the Dragon Claw knockout there, he'd probably knock out my Gardevoir, and Garchomp pretty much wins 1v1 against that Aegislash as I knock its Substitute out. However, that's not going to be the case, and now I'm really not in a good position. He's got a Salamence, which is locked into Rock Slide, and an Aegislash in Blade form. He makes a great play here. Instead of King Shielding, as you'd probably expect him to, he actually stays in Blade form. Goes for the Rock Slide and Garchomp. I'm not going to flinch, but unfortunately I went for the Dragon Claw instead of the Earthquake there. It was really one way or the other. I think if he King Shielded there, obviously he loses. If he doesn't, he still has a chance of winning. Basically, I think he had to stay in that form for any chance of winning, and it was pretty careless of me not to Earthquake there. And so now we've got 1v1, Garchomp against Aegislash. Of course, it's going to stance change to get into that Blade form, King Shielding, but now that Salamence is off the field, it's a 1v1, right? So Garchomp's Earthquake actually does full damage. You got that base 100 power attack plus stab, and super effective. So Garchomp goes for the Earthquake, and it just misses on the knockout. Aegislash literally hangs on with what looks like 1 or 2 or 3 HP. It is going to stance change. It is going to get that Shadow Ball off, and Garchomp is not going to be able to take that. So my opponent's Aegislash hangs on with just a sliver of health, and he is able to pull out with the win. But an excellent battle. It was really close. I honestly had no idea whether that Earthquake would have picked up the knockout or not. Obviously, the Rock Slide flinch earlier on, towards the end of the battle was somewhat unfortunate, but it's kind of expected when you use Rock Slide so many times, and he really had to do that. So my opponent was able to come back from a 2-4 deficit and, you know, clinch it out. Surprisingly, with Rock Slide Salamence, you know, that's one of the clutch moves. Rock Slide definitely one of the best moves in VGC, and in this case, having it on Salamence proved to be obviously really good. I definitely was careless by switching in Pyro into that Tyranitar. Should have conserved it a bit more, and I definitely could have played a bit better at the end, going for maybe even the Dazzling Gleam instead of the Shadow Ball into that Aegislash. But, you know, in the end, my opponent really made the game-winning play by not King Shielding that one turn with Aegislash. I was so torn on Earthquaking or Dragon Clawing. Went for the Dragon Claw in the end, did not call it correctly, so props to my opponent for playing it so well. Very well done for him, especially after I had such a big momentum swing, knocking out the Amoonguss and burning the Mega Tyranitar. But if anything, that shows to you should never give up in VGC, especially if you have Rock Slide on your end, because one timely flinch and the battle can turn around completely. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. It was really nerve-wracking for me. I was obviously sad when I lost, but such an incredible game, and I'm glad I got to capture it. Leave a like, of course, if you enjoyed it. 500 likes is the goal for daily uploads. And like I said earlier, check out my Facebook page at facebook.com/CybertronVGC. If you want to talk to me or message me, that's definitely the best place to do so as well. Anyway, that's it for today's battle, guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace.